All right. Well, I'd like to thank the International Investment Forum for hosting Desert Gold today, and for everybody else who is here interested in learning more about the company. So I will just go ahead and get right into it. So Desert Gold Ventures is a junior gold exploration company situated in Canada. And our project, our flagship project, is in West Africa and Western Mali, and it's called the Senegal-Mali Shear Zone Project. It's a 440 square kilometer regional property package that's situated in the Tier 1 mining district of the Birimian Greenstone Belt, which straddles the Senegal-Mali border. We are bracketed by multiple Tier 1 mines, which I'll get into in a bit more detail. And myself and Don Dudek, our VP Exploration, have been active in this part of the world for well over 10 years. And myself, I've been specifically active in Western Mali since 2011, doing exploration and acquisitions as well. Currently, our SMSC project has a 1.1 million ounce combined resource of measured and indicated at an average grade of about 1.14 grams. And I'll also get into that in a little bit more detail as well as we go forward. Generally speaking, this part of the world is a very target-rich environment for gold exploration and discovery. On our property package alone, there are 23 plus known gold zones confirmed by drilling, hundreds of high-value golden soil anomalies, and other targets as well in artisanal mining. So this area in general has a very rich gold endowment, which we'll show in some upcoming slides. And for the 2023 work season, excuse me, which we plan on starting in January, we will be doing some drilling in some certain key areas with the goal of aggressively expanding our resource. And I'll talk about that as well. So a brief overview of corporate. We're listed on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange under the ticker DAU. We have non-diluted issued and outstanding shares of 162.2 million, options of roughly 8 million, and warrants of 43 million at an average strike price of 28 cents. And I've got a more detailed schedule for anybody who wants to see it. So fully diluted, we are 213.1 million issued and outstanding. Sonny Janda, our chairman, has been involved with the company for nearly 10 years. He's a big supporter, big investor into the company. He's putting $500,000 into the current financing. I myself have been with the company since 2011. I was the person who essentially orchestrated the consolidation of the land package we have today, which I think is one of the best in the belt. Don Dudek has a very established history of mineral exploration and discovery in this part of the belt, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But his two most recent successes were Savory Gold and Burkina Faso, which was bought by Semafo, and then ultimately Semafo was bought by Endeavour. And prior to that, he was involved in Avian Gold as their VPX before they got bought out by Endeavour. And that's also in Western Mali, in the belt where we operate. And we've got a very good in-country operating team as well, headed by John Learn, who's got 25 plus years experience in Western Africa. He's an expat based in Burkina Faso, and he leads the exploration team in Mali. I'll touch on some of our key investors. Merck Investment is a strategic holder of ours. Lees Joan Gables, a brokerage based in Vancouver, Canada. Grand Peak is an asset management group close to our chairman. Management and board are significant investors, and we will continue to be. Ross Beatty, perhaps, is a household name that some of you might know. Mining entrepreneur, has done very well. And Sodanaf as a West African group who invested in the company. And Lucky Holdus and Alta Strategies are also there as significant shareholders. So a little bit about the regional setting in Mali. Mali's Africa's fourth largest gold producing country. The latest figures we have are for 2019, where annual gold production was 2.28 million ounces. That's certainly increased since then, likely materially. The belt itself has greater than 26 million ounces of reserves. And in our opinion, that's likely going to grow significantly. And there's been a number of recent new discoveries as well. And I'll touch on that in a bit more detail as we go through. So I guess the point really to drive home is this is a highly prospective and still relatively underexplored belt. You know, if you would compare it to anywhere in North America that had this kind of regional endowment, every single inch of this area would have been heavily explored. And there are major producers in the belt. To name a few: Barrick Gold, B2, Endeavour, Allied Gold, a private Australian group, Hummingbird, Resolute, and BCM. And we'll touch on that a little bit more as well. So we're extremely strategically located. I've been consolidating a land package in this part of the world that started off at about 80 square kilometers in 2011, 2012, and it's grown to over 440. And to my knowledge, it's the largest contiguous land package of any non-producer in the belt over this highly important feature, which we're going to touch on. So this picture is kind of speaks 1,000 words. It's the regional setting of where our SMSC project is located. And, you know, if I'll start from the north, where we've demarcated here, this gold band is where we feel the Senegal-Mali shear zone is located. And you can, it's pretty clearly demarcated in what we use called regional magnetics. And it's demarcated by high magnetics to the west, being volcanic rock package, and sediment rocks, low magnetics to the east. And one of these sort of repeating patterns you can see along this feature is that the very large gold deposits and operating mines in the region are all proximal to the Senegal-Mali shear zone. The other secondary feature that's worth mentioning is what's called the main transcurrent, which starts in the Senegal side and gradually goes to the north and touches on the western side of the Mali border. And this was previously a very active area for Teranga with their Sabodala-Massawa mines, but they were recently bought out by Endeavour in a very large public transaction. Resolute's Mako mine is also here. So the noteworthy thing about our property packages is that we have exposure to both of these main features. We control about 40 kilometers of the Senegal-Mali shear zone and about 11 kilometers of the main transcurrent, and a whole lot of land in between. And for us, this is why this property package is so strategic and why we think we can find something special here. I'm just going to pull up another image that I think is useful. It's the same image, but it just gives you a bit more of a sense. So this is the same image, but we sort of have highlighted past production and combined resources and reserves. And so you can see Yatela from at the north here at 4.5 million ounces, Sadiola 13. Then you have our Senegal-Mali shear zone project. And as we continue to the south, you have Barrick Gold's Loulo-Gounkoto complex of mines. This was previously Rand Gold, and they were purchased for I think nearly $6 billion by Barrick. So that's combined historic resources and production and reserves of nearly 22 million ounces. To the east of that is the Tabakoto-Sagala mines. This is where Don worked with Avian until they were bought by Endeavour, and now they're owned by a private company called Algom. Further to the south, along the same feature, is B2's flagship Fekola mine. That's now at a total resource of 7.6 million ounces, and IM Gold's Boto and Diaka deposits that aren't yet in production combined of around 4 million ounces. And then on the main transcurrent side, the Endeavor, Sabodala, Massawa combined resource and reserves are greater than 10 million ounces, and Mako is a little over 1. So this is an extremely gold-rich region, and I think that's one of the points that I'm really trying to drive home here. So I'll switch back to the presentation. Okay, so I want to give you just a little bit of history in the M&A Birimian Greenstone Belt. You'll see here a couple of noteworthy transactions. I've left out the big transaction involving other big producers buying other big producers because it's not really relevant to Desert Gold. So we looked at all the major M&A that was done in this area over the last 10 years to see sort of what kind of metrics were involved. And I guess the biggest takeaways was that the average acquisition price of these publicly traded companies was about 210 million Canadian. And on average, that represented an acquisition cost of $91 Canadian per market cap of ounce gold. And at Desert Gold's current prices, we're trading at around $10 per market cap of ounce. And so using sort of traditional or historical metrics, rather, we would appear to be quite undervalued. And that's something to take into consideration. The other thing that's noteworthy is the average resource size of these developers and explorers was about 1.97 million ounces of combined resource at a grade of about 2.2 grams. So you begin to get an understanding of what the thresholds are in the region for when explorers start to become interesting to some of the big producers. At the current resource of 1.08 million ounces at Desert Gold and an average grade of 1.14 grams, we seem to be a little bit on the small side, and the grade perhaps a little bit low, although we think we can improve on both these areas, and we'll get into why. It is noteworthy, though, that if you increase our cutoff grade to 1 from 0.4, our resource grade improves dramatically to 1.86 grams per ton at 750,000 ounces. And so within our resource, there are high grade hotspots, which is something we feel we can improve on. But I think if you look at that history of the M&A in this area, it really shows that there's a lot of upside in Desert Gold share price. Okay, so this is the SMSC project zoomed in, and it's a bit of a technical image, so I'll just highlight some of the key points. The black dashed band going from north to south is where we've demarcated approximately the Senegal-Mali shear zone, this regional feature that's related to these very large gold deposits. The purple dots that you see are golden soil samples greater than 200 parts per billion, going all the way up to 16,000 or 16 grams per ton. The yellow dots are golden soils between 50 to 200. And I guess the biggest takeaway is you can see the extent of the anomalism to the east of the Senegal-Mali shear zone, and as well also to the west, but you can just see the extent of it proximal to the Senegal-Mali shear, which is consistent with why we feel this area is just so prospective. Our existing resource comes from the 5 deposits that you see circled in red. And this area here to the south is about 12 kilometers. So we do have a hot spot in the southern part of the area permit, and we feel that we can add resources here, and we'll get into why in a bit more detail. Over here on the western side of the block, this is where we have demarcated the main transcurrent, which is the other regional feature related to large gold deposits. And you can see we have 2 deposits, Gorbassi West and Gorbassi East here, and a number of soil anomalies that continue for about 8 kilometers. We recently made a new discovery here called Gorbassi West North, or some highlighted drill intercepts in white here in terms of grade over width. But really what this image shows is you have 44 kilometers of highly prospective ground in a belt where, you know, you have 10 million ounce plus deposits to the north and to the south of you along trend. And really that's what we're looking for, is a tier 1 gold deposit that's going to make a difference for our shareholders. Okay, this is breaking down the existing maiden resource we published last year in a bit more detail. I won't go through it exhaustively. It's more there for your reference. So I'll just keep going through this slide. Okay, so this is the program that we're envisioning for 2023. We've sort of laid it out here by drilling and some surveys that we're going to complete. And really you can see the focus of the drilling is along the Senegal-Mali shear zone, and the yellow dots are air core, the orange are RC, and the red are diamond or core holes. And the purple is auger drilling, which we use to do first pass testing over golden soil anomalies. So all told, we have about 20,000 meters planned with an additional 10,000 meters of contingency. And really what we're trying to do is expand the existing resources, both to depth and step out along trend and along strike, and push as aggressively as we can towards getting above that 2 million ounce mark of economic gold. So just to give you a summary, this is, in my opinion, one of the best exploration packages in this highly prospective region. It's certainly one of the largest contiguous land packages over the Senegal-Mali shear zone at 440 square kilometers. Like I said, we control 43 to 44 kilometers of the Senegal-Mali shear and another 11 kilometers of the main transcurrent. Those are the two most important features in the region for discovering large gold deposits. Regionally, they're related to 11 gold deposits, with 9 of them currently mining and in production. Our target model to date is working, and so we will continue with it. Our drill programs have returned good discoveries, sometimes excellent discoveries, and have continued to add ounces. And we have one of the lowest discovery cost per ounce of any explorer in the region. The current resource sits at a combined measured and indicated and inferred of 1.08 million ounces at 1.14 grams per ton. And the objective in 2023 will be to increase that significantly. There are 24 known gold zones with minimal exploration to date. Virtually all of them are open to depth and along strike. So there's tremendous upside in the property package, and I believe as well in the share price at these levels. Some recent new discoveries: 2 grams over 30 meters, 1.9 grams over 30 meters. These are excellent intercepts that need follow-up. And like I said, we're targeting 20 to 30,000 meters of drilling this season. And we're hoping for big success in the area. I'll just note that this presentation, there's a second half of it that I'm not going to go through, but it dives down into excruciating detail each of the individual zones. But if we did that, we'd go over time, and I'd like to leave a bit of time for some questions. So I'll just go ahead and end it there.
Thank you very much, Jared. Yeah, there's quite some time left. We have about 9 minutes, and we have already a few questions in the chat.
Okay.
So the first one is regarding the security in the country, which is Mali is quite a dangerous place to be at. How do you address that issue?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So like I said, I've been operating in the country since 2011. And if you can see my cursor, we've outlined the shape of the country of Mali here. And I guess the biggest takeaway is the overwhelming majority of the security issues happen in the northern part of the company here, in the Saharan area, in the north. And the way that the country's sort of shaped, it's kind of like there's like a bottleneck or a pinch right in the middle of the country when you go into this sort of sub-Saharan area. The two major gold belts in the country are the Birimian Greenstone Belt, which is on the border with Senegal in the extreme west of Mali, and the Yanfalila Gold Belt in the southwest here, where companies like Hummingbird operate. These areas have seen little to no issues with security, geopolitical risk. Whenever I go into the country, I travel without security, just my geological team and my driver. And I think the best tell, and rather than me just talking about it, is just look at the operators that invested billions of dollars in capital in that part of the country building and operating mines. And so I think, like any other very large country, you can't just make a blanket statement that Mali is dangerous. It's really about where you are within the country, which is true of anywhere. And so we have not had any issues, knock on wood, at site while operating, driving to or from site, while we're in the capital, Bamako, meeting with government officials. And hopefully it'll stay that way. And maybe the other thing to just mention, there has been some political instability in the country over the last 6-7 years. They've had a couple of coups, as I'm sure everyone's aware. And not any time during those coups were any of the mining operations of any company, either a producer or an explorer, affected. The gold and gold-related industries in this country contribute nearly 70% to the country's GDP. And so it's a very important industry for the country, and I think they do a very good job of insulating it and keeping it safe. And then, like I said, there's just this very large geographical distance between where the conflict areas have been and where the actual mines are operating, and where the explorers are operating.
All right. And another question is addressing the costs of drilling per meter.
Sure.
What are those? Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back to this slide. So the costs have definitely gone up in the last, let's call it 18 to 24 months. But generally speaking, and when I say costs, I'm talking all-in costs. So the cost of drilling, fuel, and assaying those holes. So auger, all in US dollars with assays is about $20 a meter. Air core is about 40, and RC is about 75, and core is about 150. And that's drilling, fuel, getting assays back. That's all in number.
Okay. And what's your liquidity situation? Are you fully funded for your 20,000 to 30,000 meters of drilling?
Well, right now we have an open financing. The book sits at about 2.2 million, which I'm happy with in the current market. It's been a bit challenging this year for explorers. I don't think that's a secret. And I'd like to get more than that, to get to 3 million plus, and then we'd be very close to fully funded. But like any program, there are priority lists, and the priority one, let's say, is Mogia Forest South, which is our largest deposit at a little over 400,000 ounces. And it's also where we see the biggest opportunity to grow it into a potential multi-million ounce deposit. And that's because of the footprint of it. So we have the ability to scale back certain priorities. Let's call it target generation, which would be a secondary priority, versus expanding resources, which is the first priority. Okay. So I guess to answer that question, how much we do is subject to funding. Mm-hmm. But right now we've raised about 2.2 million. I'm hoping we can get to 3 million plus, and then we'll be in a very good spot.
Okay. And do you have any issues with the water scarcity?
No, we don't actually. We're pretty lucky. In this part of the world, we've got a very active river in the rainy season. It's actually too active, called the Filemi, and it comes through here. It actually demarcates the Senegal border. And it's where most of the operating mines get their water. But in addition to that, we've got a very hefty rainy season between July that goes through to November, where a lot of the explorers like ourselves have to shut down because the ground just becomes impassable. So no, we don't have any issues with water here.
Okay. And especially in Europe, for the investors, ESG becomes more and more important. And the question is, how involved are you with the local population, and how does ESG trigger your decisions on a daily basis?
We're very involved. We put out some guidance. We put out guidance possibly about once or twice a year on this, and maybe we should do more. But within the Senegal Mali Shear Zone project, there are at least 30 communities, and they vary in size. Some are quite small, and some are larger. Like there's a community called Kinyeba, which is much larger, a couple thousand people. And so we're very active in providing school supplies, just general supplies to the towns as well. And we do that on an annual basis. So within our exploration budget, there is monies to support the communities. And we get together with them and ask them, on an annual basis, what it is that they need most on any given year, whether it's seed or school supplies, books, pencils, things of that nature, if they need structures built. And we do as much as we can as a junior exploration company. We're not Barrick, but maybe we'll get there at some point.
And do you actually look at the ESG, or is it not particularly important for you currently?
Well, can you elaborate on that question?
There's ESG is a guidance in Europe for European investors that most investments need to be ESG compliant, ecological, sociological, and so on. Is that on your map?
Well, ecologically, there are some fairly strict environmental laws in terms of how you can operate and explore within the country in Mali itself. So we do everything based on best practices in terms of safety, in terms of the social community, but adhering to some strict European ESG protocol, we haven't really explored that yet.
Okay. Okay, and I think we just finished on the dot. It's just 6 here in Germany. So thank you very much. Great presentation.
Of course. Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.